Hi everyone, how you all doing? Well, today I'm in a little biddy Yorkshire town called Halifax, and it's not that far off where I live, in Rochdale. But it's old mill town, you know. You sort of drive around, you can see the remnants of the cotton industry around here. And that's what the UK and what the Northwest was built on, wasn't it? The cotton industry, with all the yarn mills that have all gone. No sign of them anymore. Because what happened was, just at the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s, the rag trade that used to be really strong in the UK was phased out. And they started to sub out all the rag trade contracts to, let's say, third world countries like India and Taiwan and places like that. And that didn't do us any favours, because we stopped training people up on machines. You know, being a machinist at one time in the 60s and the early 70s used to be quite a good job for a lot of women. You know, they used to, some of the women who were good machinists used to earn more than the men, because the men might not have had that kind of skill. You know, they just may be labourers, the men. And so a lot of these machinist women in the UK, and especially in the Northwest, were earning a lot of money. And they became the main breadwinners, which a lot of people were not aware of. And in a lot of cases, if husbands were out of work, the women were carrying on in these mill industry as sort of like foreperson of a whole group of other women. That was like the top job. That was, if you were working class in the Northwest and you was in the rag trade and in the cotton mill industry, you could get yourself into a supervisory role as a woman and have a couple of dozen machinists that were answerable to you. So when the boss came in, the mill boss came in, he'd speak to the foreman and find out how the women are doing. And if the women are getting behind, he would very, very rarely would he ever go up to an individual machinist and pick them out for special attention. That never happened. He'd pick out the foreman, get the foreman in the office and say, you're behind on this quota. Your machinists are running a bit slow. What's going on? But it was up to the machinist foreperson to know everything about the girls, to know whether they've had any reason for why they're not hitting the targets. That's how it was. And we were the world leaders at this from the Victorian times onwards, you know. I mean, the Industrial Revolution. I mean, come on. We contributed so much back then to the world's trades, the world's major structures being built. You know, the old saying about the sun never set on the British Empire was so true back in the Victorian times, because we were the dominant power. Now, that dominant power joined with the United States, that became the Anglo-American world power, which has been reigning for 200 and odd years as the dominant world power still. But for how much longer? Well, that remains to be seen. There's certainly going to be some vigorous challenges to the Anglo-American empire by Russia and China. This is how it's going to be. They are going to make an almighty attempt at toppling the United States and Great Britain and NATO, the Anglo-American Empire. They want to see the end of it. And of course, the Anglo-American Empire has had it so good for 270 odd years as the most dominant force in the world. They're not going to give in, are they, easily? They're going to fight. That's why you need to prepare yourself for World War III. Because it's that serious now. But what I can't get my head round at the moment is, are they all players? China, Russia, all of them, United States, Great Britain, all these powers, are they all players in some staged warfare game that has to have an end purpose? Why would the world not learn a lesson from the two previous world wars, World War I, World War II? Why have they not learned their lesson from that? Why do they think it's necessary to have another world war? There has to be a reason other than what they're telling you. Maybe it is because currently, if the world continues to populate, the earth won't be able to sustain with the amount of food, the scarcity, the provisions are running short on the earth. So I probably think that there's a hidden agenda to why they would push us into World War III. But Ukraine have to be mindful of this very fact. And they haven't been up to now, but they need to realise that the Anglo-American Empire is using them. They are using them to weaken Russia. That's why they're doing it. They probably don't even care for Ukraine. They probably couldn't give a toss about them. This is the hypocrisy of all huge world powers. They use smaller countries for reasons which they never ever disclose. Are you prepared for another war? Well, if not, get out the game. How can you get out the game? Well, I suppose by not supporting nationalism when it comes in, because it will come in vibrantly. They're going to want people, aren't they, to get behind the war effort and start hating Russia and China. Because they're telling you to. They're telling you Putin is bad cop. You must hate bad cop. And just recently, Nigel Farage has just put a cat amongst the pigeons by telling NATO that they provoked Putin. And which is exactly what they did. They absolutely provoked him. And so he had no alternative to protect Russia and Russian interest. Of course, this is what the globalists want. They want to keep the pseudo-wars going. Just like the film, people. The George Orwell film, 1984. If you remember, there was some great acting in that film, by the way, but John Hurt is figuring it out, isn't he? About the deception, and and in the background you can hear about this phony war that's going on between two countries that are supposed to be at war with each other. And it was just to keep the people in line. So if there's a World War III, it could be to keep you in line and depopulate you, ultimately. See you again.